This time on Werner's Whirligigs, we get everything back together and we get the engine running. But we created some problems along the way and committed some cardinal sins of wrenching. So stay tuned. You'll see what happened. I want you all to remember that I'm just another yokel who is not educated nor a professional in what I'm doing here, and it's possible that if you rely on this video, you, your project, or the both of you might end up as a smoldering hunk of hammered dog shit. Please use common sense, be careful, and always protect your ears, eyes, face, body, and hands when doing this type of work. With that, let's keep on trucking. This video may contain peanuts. Well, howdy folks, and welcome to Werner's Whirligigs, or welcome back if you've been here before. I'm Werner, and as I said earlier, the truck is running, and I am so happy to be near the end of this campaign. I don't think there's too much other than that to say, so let's just jump into the story. Here's the majority of what's left to do on my truck. To the left here, we've got antifreeze and water. This is, I think it's 4 gallons of oil. It's funny, this thing comes in a bag. I've never seen this before. I guess it's not that unusual, but I purchased it because the price was great. But at the time, I thought it was going to be 4 1-gallon containers. But instead it's a 4-gallon bag. So I need to think about how I'm actually going to make that work without spilling it everywhere, which is one of my special superpowers. What else do we have? In the back, there's the fan and the shroud. I did put the fan on in the last video, but I took it back off only because I thought it might make putting in the radiator easier. I know for sure that I can put the fan and the shroud in at the very end. And here we have some new hoses for the radiator hoses. 2 of them are new and 1 is old. And then there's the valve cover, a new air filter. And this is all just hardware and parts for the front grille. So that's what we're going to focus on this video. Let's get going. I've got the radiator up on the bench now, and I just want to swap out the old lower radiator tube for the new one. And actually, I guess quite a while back I must have moved the clamp. So let's get this one off, and then we can take the clamps off of this old one. I have this new tool. It's not opening quite wide enough. Let's try it over here. Oh, that's a bummer. It's not working. It's not big enough. Well, even though I bought this nice tool, I think it was from JB Tools, for doing just this thing, it's not working. So we'll go back to the old way. And it's a little bit too large. There we go, there's one. And we'll bring the other one out the same way because there's more space. The last time this was done, the person who installed this tube must have done it from underneath the truck because of the way the clamp was oriented. But it's hard to get in it from that side because there's just some stuff in the way. So I'm going to leave this time. I'm going to have it so the clamp is facing up. And I guess first and foremost, we need to get it on there. Oh my god, that rubber tastes so awful. I licked my finger to, after touching it. Oh, it's gross. So we'll just leave it like this for now, and then when we get out there and are ready to install it, we can move around this clamp. But the important thing is now the clamp is facing up, and that means that I can reach it from the top of the motor rather than from underneath. This is my third try. The first two times I couldn't get the feet to sink into the holes for some reason. So I put some spray, some silicone spray lubricant on. Oops. I don't know, wouldn't say that I missed it, but there's one step in between, and that's just to get these radiator mounting brackets in place. And I'm not going to tighten them up yet because we need to be able to get the radiator up underneath. Let's see if we can even do it. Nope. Okay. Remember that. Okay, so we'll bring this one up first. And then I'm going to go do the same thing on the other side. I got the lower radiator hose in there. You can see the clamps. And this one specifically, the lower one right here, I put the tangs up on this side so that I could reach them from the top. Now the air filter is not that difficult. I've got a brand new one. It's a Wix. I chose Wix because it was what could get here somewhat in a reasonable amount of time. I think Fleet Guard, is another one that people choose. This thing is super easy to install. All you have to do is pull off the air line between the air filter and the turbo, and then jam it in there. Now, since we already have the air tube off from the air filter to the turbo, I'm just going to use this as an opportunity to put the oil filter in. I mean, you can stretch and reach around and get it in there, but hey, we've got a straight shot. So first I'm going to filling up the oil filter, and hopefully I have enough oil in this container to do that. It's going to be close. That's only about half. If you're seeing this footage, that means I guess I succeeded. Here's our 4-gallon oil bag that came in this box back here. And I started filling up the oil filter yesterday and realized that I didn't have enough in my other container. I had a 1 gallon left. So I need to get about a half a oil filter's worth of oil out of this bag. I pulled it out of the box and was happy to find this nice spout on it. So I'm going to give it a test here and see what happens. Just seems like it's rife with potential problems. Okay, here we go. All right, that wasn't too bad. Then I'll just pour it in here. Not sure if this is going to be enough. And this is all, I want to say shell rotunda, but that's not quite right. Oop. They don't want to tell me on this box. Rotella T4, which is I think it's a non-synthetic blend of something. You can tell I'm no oil aficionado. Okay, that looks good. Put a little on the filter seal. All right, hopefully that's good. As I said earlier, since we have the air tube off between the turbo and the air box, it creates a great opportunity for us to put the oil filter on. I haven't oiled up the engine yet, but that's okay. So just makes it easier. There we go. The directions say to seat it and then go 3/4 of a turn more with a new filter. And it seems like Fleetguard must have taken a cue from IKEA, because here's the instructions on the side. Nothing written, just pictures. They're so international, which I guess they are. Okie dokie. Okie doke. I think that's good. Now we're going to put back on the air tube between the air filter and the turbo. And how do we tell which side is which? Well, I think it's going to be the side with a screw facing up, so we can grab onto it with a wrench. Alrighty. And while we're at it, let's also throw on the valve cover. This was a really nice addition to the 91.5 through 93. It just makes it look more polished. So now we get to see what it's like to put 4 gallons of oil into the engine from this weird contraption. See how it goes. This thing doesn't have any air release as far as I know, but maybe it does somewhere in the valve and I'm just not aware of it. We're just going to hang out. And I'm probably not going to put all of it in. I mean, it's supposed to take 4 gallons, but you know, perhaps there's a little bit in there. And also I already filled up the oil filter, and a little bit of it came from here, but half of it came from another container. All right, we'll stop it there for a minute. Just see if the oil is registering on the dipstick. I stopped for lunch and took a moment to go and look at the container of the box that this came in, and it's 3 gallons, not 4, which is how much this truck takes. I got that mixed up. It's been a while, I guess, since I've changed the oil. Not really, but I guess I just forgot. That valve works really well. It's showing as full. I think I'll just let it sit for a while and move on to a few other little projects we need to do to get this thing running. All right, let's get the upper radiator tube on. Do not think that could have gone any easier. And then we'll use this special pair of pliers for clamps. You know, I gotta be honest, I think I like just a pair of channel grips better. Because of the location of the pivot, you get a lot more leverage. You know, this one is midway, and yeah, I feel like I have not been able to get good leverage. In other words, I feel like my hand has to do more work. I mean, and the other thing is, it doesn't necessarily open up enough either for some of these clamps. Okay, there we go. And I'll come back to top off the oil a little later. I just realized that the front of the truck is up on jack stands, so I'm not getting a correct reading. All right, now we're going to move on to filling up the coolant system. And I have a tool here for this. It's an OEM Tools air vac cooling system refiller, and it's kind of neat. What it does is basically you hook it up to shop air, and it pulls a vacuum, and it sucks all the air out of the cooling system, and you can tell if it's leaking or not, or if it has an air leak or a coolant leak. But then also, once you get all that air out, you start feeding in the liquid, and it should pull it into every nook and cranny of the system. I've used it once before with success, and so I was happy with it. I'm going to use it again. So you get this piece. There's various fittings that can go on here. This one doesn't need any fittings, lucky me, but there are 5 fittings that it comes with for various radiator sizes. So you do put this in here, and as I'm turning this, there's a rubber sleeve that's expanding and creating a seal against the filler neck here. And then step 2, we hook up the second part of this device, and this is what's used to pull the vacuum. So air comes in here and leaves through here, and so there's some kind of a Venturi effect that occurs in this thing, which causes suction. So we'll hook up shop air. Okay, and then we want to open up this valve, which will allow vacuum to be pulled out. And then we'll also open this up. And there's a needle up here. I'll get a video of it as well. But there's a gauge up here, and you need to pull it down to 24. I don't think they even tell you what the reading is, or what the units are, but it's moving. So the instructions say once it gets up to 24, that's full vacuum of the system. All right, I think we're there. So now we shut that down, and we move on to the next step. And it says wait 20 seconds just to see if it has any kind of a leak. And I can see the needle moving, so it must have a little bit of a leak. Now we begin filling. So I'm just going to do 1 coolant, and then 1 bottle of water, then 1 bottle of coolant, and then 1 bottle of water. All right, I just heard air. All right, so I'm going to switch over to water, and we'll come back and get the dregs of that other bottle. Oh, come on, really? Okay. Of course. We ran out of vacuum with, 1.5 gallons of fluid left, and that doesn't sound right. The instructions say, well, once you get to 0 vacuum, the system is full. But this is a 4-gallon system, and we've only installed 2.5 gallons so far. So I'm going to see whether we can pull more vacuum again and suck some more fluid in. So let's see, I'll turn on this and then turn this on. Just don't want to see fluid coming out of here somewhere. But it's all right. It's pulling a vacuum pretty well. All right, let's stop there for now, and then we'll turn this back on again. There we go. Okay, in the last bottle, I just mixed together half and half Xerox and water. This is green Xerox for Chrysler. And so that way we should have a good 50-50 mix, regardless of where we stop. Well, we ran out of vacuum again with about a half a gallon left, so I'm going to try that little trick again. Oops. All right, now it's sending liquid out. So I guess that means we can't do that anymore. So perhaps it's full. I don't know. There's no vacuum anymore, so let's pull this off. Well, first, get rid of the air. Get rid of this guy, which now has liquid in it. We'll take this off. Let's see what we see up here. I can see the coolant level, but it's about, I don't know, 8 inches down. Maybe I just pour the rest in. And yeah, I think maybe that's what I'll do. I don't know what else to do at this point. It seems like pulling a vacuum doesn't help because it's now the levels are high enough that it's sucking up liquid. Okay, so I've got this nice funnel that I can use, and we'll just top it off. You can hear it coming up. Oh, too much. Or too fast. I mixed up a batch of 50-50, not a full gallon or anything, not even half a gallon. Well, about half a gallon. I'm just going to put it into here and get it somewhere between max and min. Let's see, I'll start below max just to make sure we don't overfill it. And there's still some room in here, so let me just give it a little more since I have a little more. Whoop. So now we're going to drop the fan down in here and get it on. We're going to get the fan onto the front of the motor. We can't, well, let's see. You know, I bet I could do it like this. Let's squeeze through here. I'm not sure. I'll give it a shot. I think it might be too tight. Otherwise, what we would normally do is I would just hold the fan shroud and the fan together and just drop them both in side by side. If there's enough room in this little space here, I guess it kind of is. I gotta spin it in backwards. Not really any fun either way you do it. Come on. There we go. Okay, almost there. There we go. It's there. And there's little feet at the bottom here that slide into bracket down there, and then we just have a screw and a bolt on this side and a clip there on the driver's side. So something's not quite right here. There we go. Now it's sitting in the right location. All right, let's tighten this up. And then this clip goes over like this. And that's it for the fan. And yeah, the only thing left now is the front grille and the lights, but I'm not going to do that at the moment. I'm going to wait until the truck is running. I got to tell you, I'm pretty nervous. Everything's together now, and I'm going to crank the truck over to check for oil pressure. I'm not going to start it. I disconnected the fuel shutoff solenoid so that no fuel can get into the engine at this moment. And then I've hooked up this pressure gauge into the oil cooler. And this is right above where the oil filter sits. So I'm just going to crank it over a little bit and see if I get an oil pressure reading. I should. There's no reason why I shouldn't, but I'm going to do that before I actually start the truck. Battery's been charging for quite a while now, so let's just let's see what it can do. Have you ever noticed how at the beginning of the videos there's a part where I say something along the lines of you shouldn't necessarily rely on this work, because if you do, you and your project, or the both of you, might end up as a smoldering hunk of hammered dog shit. Now you may have missed it. It's on the beginning of just about every video except for the first and a few others. But this is the day that you should have listened to it. I believe that the reason that the truck is not pushing oil through is due to a mistake I've made. So I went back and looked at the manual and did some research online, and you do need to prime this oil pump. I believe that the oil gets into the pump and creates a seal in certain areas, which allows the pump to function. Now, another reason I disregarded it was because, here's the old oil pump. What the instructions say are fill the pump with oil and install it. Well, how is that going to work? You put oil into here, and then as soon as you turn it up horizontal so that you can put it in, the oil's going to drain out. It didn't make sense to me, and stupid me for not following the instructions, but that's why I didn't do it. So now what? Well, because I know a lot about this truck from having taken everything apart, in one of my earlier videos while inspecting the oil cooler, I understand now that if you remove the pressure relief valve, there's a direct line of sight down to the oil pump through the top of the oil cooler. So I'm going to pull that out, the cap, spring, and piston, and I'm going to inject some oil down into the pump, and hopefully that will resolve this issue. Now, while I'm at it, I'm also going to attempt to push some oil through the system as well, towards the, through the engine. The truck hasn't been running for 4 months now, and while I did put assembly lube on the rod and main bearings, there's a bunch of areas, obviously, that I didn't touch. Now, that oil film should stay behind for quite a while, but I'm sure that it also has been slowly draining off a bit. So I would like to try to get some oil into the system before I start it. So that's what we're going to do here. All right, let's make life a little easier by getting rid of this tube again. And when I mean tube, I mean the air tube that goes from the air filter to the turbo. There's no reason to have this thing sitting right in the middle of where we want to work. Let's go ahead and pull the turbo line as well. I'd like to try to inject oil into into the motor through here, and I'd also like to get access to the pressure relief valve, which is right behind this tube, conveniently. So in order to get that, we're going to take these parts off again that we just recently put on. Now I just want to get this tube out of the way so I can get into the pressure relief valve. Now we're going to pull out the pressure relief valve cap. Alrighty, that's out, and I've got my magnet that is clean. Let's see, super magnetic. Pull out the spring. Let's see, can I get the piston out of there? I can. Awesome. All right, now with that out of the way, I should have a clean shot on this side down to the oil pump, and on this side to the rest of the engine. Okay, well, now I'm ready to go here. I have this sprayer that I never use. I bought two of them a long time ago, and I thought, well, I'll buy an extra one just in case. Well, today's the day. So I just made sure it was clean inside, which it was, and I put 2 quarts of oil in it. So it's set up here, it's pressurized, and I'm just gonna start pumping it into here. And I know you can't see what's going on, but it does a pretty good stream. There we go. So I'm just gonna send some of it down this way, and this is not gonna be scientific. I don't know if it's gonna do anything. On the other side, though, when I send it down to the oil pump, it definitely will. And let's send some down there right now. I probably put in most now of the 2 quarts. It happened that fast. Now we just need to button things up. All right, we're at the same point in the road that we were yesterday, and it's time to check for oil pressure again. And gosh, I hope this worked. Give it another shot. That was 8 seconds of pumping. Seemed like a year. I guess at this point there's nothing left to do but to start it. We did have oil pressure that showed up in that video, and the light went off on the dash, so the oil pressure made it all the way around to the other side of the engine. So now we're going to start it. Hopefully, I should say, now we're going to try to start it. All right, there's a vibration that doesn't sound or feel right. Well, hey again, and it's another new day. As you saw and heard, we got the truck started yesterday, which was fantastic. We figured out the oil pressure issue, and after I was certain that there was pressure, I started up the truck and it fired up right away. We have a couple of issues, though, that I still need to deal with. The first is that at idle, the truck is vibrating quite a bit. If I tap on the gas just a little bit, it smooths out, sort of, but there's a little bit of a vibration inside of the cab. I haven't checked to see whether it's out here at the engine yet because I shut off the truck before I got out. A couple of things come to mind. One, it could be that one of the injectors isn't firing for some reason. Perhaps the fuel drained out while sitting here for 4 months. So I'm going to crack all of the injectors individually and bleed them and make sure that they're all firing. Another possibility is that with the new engine and transmission mounts, perhaps there's a change in the resonance of the vibration of the engine running, and that's being magnified through the cab. I hope that's not the case, because then I would have to go back to the old transmission and engine mounts. And you know, those are the two that come to mind first. So that's what I'm going to check out first. The second thing is that there's some oil leaks. I put a brown cardboard box underneath of the truck just to see if things were dripping. And there are some drips, so I'm going to try to chase those down. There was also some radiator fluid down there, but it just turned out that the drain petcock wasn't completely tight. The dang thing never works, and you could open it up and nothing comes out. All of a sudden, now it wants to let liquid out, but it was only a little drip, drip, drip. So I just tightened it up more, just a little bit more, and that went away. So right now we're going to start by working on the injectors. All right, I'm going to go start the engine, and then I'm going to come back here and start cracking each of the fuel injectors individually to bleed them out. All right, well, you can see it there. All 6 cylinders are firing, as evidenced by cracking the injectors. When I opened them up, that cylinder would stop firing, and we could also see fuel spraying out. Everything seems to be performing at that level. You know, the engine itself looks pretty smooth while it's running. It doesn't seem like it's running rough. It just seems like there's resonance coming through the cab. It may not have been as obvious as it was while I was standing here, but each time I cracked one of the injectors open, fuel was spraying out, and also there was a noticeable drop off in the engine RPM. Noticeable, meaning it's very, very slight, but you could definitely hear the difference. I just watched the footage on the camera, and I don't think that you can hear that change in tone. I wonder why, because it's so obvious while I was standing right here. Anyway, all 6 of the injectors performed as I would have hoped, and so I don't believe that there is some kind of imbalance occurring because of fuel delivery. That leaves potentially the engine mounts and maybe some other things. I think I'm going to turn up the idle just a little bit. It's idling just a hair low. Maybe I'll turn it up 50 RPM and see whether that makes a difference in terms of comfort in the cab. All right, now I'm going to try to turn up the idle just a little bit. Obviously, this is the fuel injection pump here. To do so, there's a stop that's right here, and so it's back here. Now, I think stock from the factory, this screw is turned around the other way, and you have to turn the bolt from the other end, which is just almost impossible to do. So I took it out and I flipped it around, so now it's on this side. So I'm just going to start by loosening the lock nut. And now, yeah, now I can turn that. So I'm going to start it up, note the RPM, and then come back here and turn it up. It's at about 650 right now. All right, that's turned it up some. The manual says 750 is the number for the manual transmission. We're still a little low. All right, now we're at just over 750. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit more. All right, that's about 800. I'm going to stop there for now. All right, last thing I need to do is tighten this bolt back, or this nut back down. All right, well, that's definitely an improvement. I can't tell if it's as good as I want it to be yet. It's definitely way better. You know, it's one of those things where you don't remember quite how it was, so I might just drive around with it as it is and revisit. Unfortunately, we have a pretty large oil leak. Just here's my hand for reference. It's a huge spot, and I already found it, and it's the oil pan. And you can see, I don't know if this looks like it's actually the gasket material that somehow got turned out. But I can see, I don't know if you can see it back there, but there's drips of oil. Yeah, if you look way back here, there's drips of oil back there just running down the side of the oil pan. Let's see at the other end. Oh yeah, great. Look at that. You can just see, yeah, there you can see oil just shining on the edge. That's probably just running down because the truck is on a very slight incline where it's raised in the front. So last thing I wanted to do was have to redo the oil pan, and it looks like that's what I'm going to have to do. Well, I moved fast. I already got the oil pan off again to check in on that oil leak, and here it is. This is the area where it was leaking. I just recognize it because I saw these two little tabs sticking out here, but it looks like, you know, there's ripped gasket material. Maybe it used to be here and it somehow got turned out. You know, then I'm also seeing these bubbly areas. Of course, you know, this separated from the engine block, so it's hard to say whether, you know, this bubble was actually here or it was just a function of taking the truck up or the oil pan off. I will say that it was holding really well after I took all the screws out. I had to get in there and pry on it a little bit, but once it pried loose at one corner, then it all just came out really easily. So it wasn't as if it was stuck on like cement. And, you know, the rest of it looks okay, but I just don't know if I'm going to use this stuff again. I've got a Felpro replacement gasket coming, and I may just put that on dry, with the exception of a little bit of material at this end and this end where I guess, let's see, this end here, this is where the timing chest meets up to the block, and you have to have a little bit of goop here to protect that. I believe back at this end also there's a place where you need to do that. So anyway, here is the post-mortem on this leaking gasket. Well, we're at the end of the video again, and I want to go over the 3 mistakes or the 3 problems that we ran into doing this work on the truck this time. The first was priming the oil pump. I misunderstood or had different thoughts on how a displacement pump works, or a generator pump in this case, and I didn't prime it ahead of time. You need to prime the oil pump on this truck if it's dry. You know, if you're doing an oil change, it doesn't matter. There's still oil in the system. But if you put in a new oil pump, or even take the old one out and clean it and dry it off, you need to put some oil in it. You can start by putting oil into the pump initially and then installing it. You can also backfeed it like I did through the pressure regulator valve in the oil cooler. So keep that in mind. The second thing that went wrong, I had a vibration and when the truck finally started, and my initial thoughts went to the new engine and transmission mounts, because that was something new and different on the truck. That doesn't seem to be the case, and then I also thought that perhaps that it wasn't fueling correctly. That will cause the truck to vibrate, or the engine motor to vibrate, if one of the cylinders isn't running correctly. But I don't think that was the case here. The first thing I should have thought of, and the simplest solution, would have been to just pay attention to the idle RPM. Now, when it started, I think the idle RPM said 750, which is exactly right. That's exactly what it should be. But it sure had a funny idle. And then when I came back later, it was significantly lower, but it sounded exactly the same. So I should say it was the same on, I have a tachometer on this truck, the factory tach. And the first time it showed 750, I believe. And then the next time it showed 700. And then when I was finally tuning it, it got down to 650. But that's a longer story. I had actually backed it down a little bit more because I was testing something else. So anyways, once I turned the idle back up to about 800, it seems to be doing fine. The third thing is that I screwed up putting in the oil pan gasket, and the oil pan, it's definitely ripped, and I think that's because I just became somewhat careless as I became more frustrated installing the oil pan. So I did use some of that, what's it called, blue. Anyways, a sealant, and it was holding the gasket in place, which was great. Because that was the case, I think I wasn't being as protective of the surfaces, but somehow there was a tear in the gasket only on one side of the bolt, and I don't know what exactly happened, but because of that and because of my carelessness, I had to take the oil pan off again, which involves lifting the engine, and that's where I am right now. The oil pan's off, waiting on the new gasket, and as soon as it shows up, it's going back on, and hopefully this truck is done and good. But you know, impatience sometimes is a bad thing. So wrapping it up, thank you guys. If you stuck it around this far, great news, you're still here. Hey, you're thank you. uh, I appreciate the time you've taken to learn with me and to watch the videos I've put together, and I hope I see you on the next one. All right guys, so long for now.